Hey, it's Matt Haycox here. I'm going to talk to you today about what I think the biggest stumbling block business owners have when it comes to growing is. And you know what it is? For me, it's mindset. All businesses out there have got the opportunity to grow, to scale in some way. But I think most of the time when I see people struggling, it really comes down to the fact, not that the business is unable to grow, not that them as an individual are unable to grow themselves or to grow the business, but that they feel they can't, that they worry, that the people around them are not allowing them to think big. They believe things like small is beautiful, or they're scared to take a step forward in case it damages or jeopardizes what they've already created. And I'm not saying that there aren't sometimes valid reasons to have some of those fears, but I do honestly believe that 99 times out of 100, these are really just mindset issues rather than real, genuine cases. But once you have overcome any mental barriers you may be suffering from, I think it's very important to decide if you have the necessary skill sets to grow the business. And if you don't, I think you need to be very honest with yourself, because as a business grows, you as an individual probably need to grow side by side with it and change your skill sets to be able to take it to where it wants to be. Because most often the skill sets necessary to start a business are very different to the skill sets necessary to grow a business, which are often different to the skill sets necessary to manage a very established business that's just looking to kind of trade out. And this is something that ultimately only you can decide. You need to be honest with yourself if that's where you see yourself as an individual, if you're capable of doing that. And this is actually something that I came across very early in my career. Anyone who knows my backstory will know the story about how I got involved in my family's corporate clothing business at the time, which was a failing business with many things that needed fixing, and what I would have said at the time is lots of opportunity to get stuck into. And when I was 18 and 19, that's what I did. I was thrown in at the deep end, and I spent 3 years dealing with every conceivable problem. Customers who didn't want to buy from us, suppliers who didn't want to supply to us, banks who didn't want to finance us, lack of staff, demotivated staff. I loved getting stuck into all of these problems, and I took the business from being a failing business with little to no turnover to a modestly successful business. We were losing £200,000 or £300,000. We then ultimately, when I'd done my bit, were making £30,000-40,000. And whilst it wasn't huge amounts of money, it was the principle of what I'd done. But what I kind of learned for myself was that my skill set and my interests very much revolved around having an idea and executing on it in the early stages, or fixing a problem, being entrepreneurial. And once that business had got to a stage where it had a reasonably steady level of turnover and it needed more corporate infrastructure around it, good quality managers to grow it, that actually wasn't me. It was neither my skill set nor my interest. I ultimately stepped aside and left that business, and my father got back involved. I think that's a point that I kind of learned early, and it stuck with me through my life, that you have to be very honest about what it is you want to do and what it is you're capable of doing. It's important to know that just because you are the founder of the business doesn't necessarily mean you should be the chief executive of that business, or just because you're the chief executive of that business in the early days doesn't mean you're the right person to be the chief executive of that business in the latter days. And this is something that I'm quite honest with myself and my staff and my investors in the businesses I work in now. I am whilst a lot of the businesses, ultimately I may be the biggest investor or the biggest shareholder, or the biggest decision maker. There's not many where I am the right person to be managing teams in there. I'm not very great at structure, not very great at discipline, and I maintain that I'm a pretty poor manager of people. Now these are all things that I'm trying to learn and fix, but there's definitely better people out there than me to do it. If you're going to grow your business, that is something that you really do need to make some honest decisions on early on, and see what teams you need to build around you, what people you need to bring in with you. And also I think it's very important to realise realise that when you are going to grow a business, quite often you may have to take one step backwards before you take two steps forwards. You know, you may need to invest in something which is going to slow down growth or hamper profitability, or, you know, exhaust some of your existing cash. So, you know, a lot of people who get used to a steady level of income or a sustainable way of life may not, you know, be prepared to take that step back in cash flow, or that, you know, or that potential step in risk. So they're what I see as the biggest problems, the biggest barriers to people trying to grow a business today. But they're all, like, you know, most situations, are very easily overcomable if you think that growing the business is the right thing for you. I'm personally all about growth. You know, I'm not interested in small businesses, in lifestyle businesses. You know, I want to build big things, to either run them when they're big or potentially to sell them. But just because that's what I want to do doesn't mean that's necessarily the right thing to do for you. Self-awareness, mindset, as in all areas of business, are absolutely key in how to grow your business as well. I hope you found this useful. I'm Matt Haycox, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.